All right, we're back. We are COMP123 in the summer 2017 semester at Centennial, and we are week 13, part 3 of our broadcast. We're talking about calculator functionality today, adding more functionality to our little calculator. But before we do that, some announcements again, just to recap of what we did before. 1, your lab 27 is due tomorrow, right? At midnight, right? So remember I talked about this last lab of the semester, that's tomorrow. What is it going to be on? It's going to be adding a couple of additional functions to your calculator. I'm going to show you the plus and minus today, right? You're going to add the multiply and divide as well as your backspace. Okay, how to fix those out. So those are the 3 little functions I want you to add into your calculator for your lab mark. Okay, that's tomorrow. I'm going to build out the plus and the minus and show you the complexity that we need to build out. It's actually more complex than you think it is. Is there an easier way to do this? Absolutely. I'm not going to show you the easy way, though, because I want you to learn the difficulties. It's always easier to do stuff the easy way when you know how to do it the hard way, right? So, and there's more learnings in the hard way. Okay, so that's what's due tomorrow night. Remember that on Tuesday, from a schedule perspective, we're going to do a full review. And what I mean by that is I won't be teaching you new material. So there's no new material on Tuesday. It's going to be just reviewing what's going to be on your exam. So I'm going to go over the stuff that might be on your exam and take any questions from you guys on the Tuesday. However, just an FYI, I will not record my session, right? And there's a reason for this. 1, I'd like you guys all to be here so we can talk. 2, there's going to be, if I answer the questions about what's going to be in the exam on my video, future iterations, if I use the exam again, will be bad, right? So I'm never going to do that, right? That's the one time I don't record is when, if it's something that's critical or sensitive. In this case, it'll be sensitive because it'll tell you what's on the exam, so I'm not going to record it. So Tuesday, don't expect the recording to happen. It's not going to happen, right? So this will be the last recording, these 2 recordings I'm doing today, okay? Thursday is going to be your exam. Please arrive on time, like I said. I will also talk about that on Tuesday. Remember that Thursday, I need you to be here on time. And Tuesday night is when your assignment 5 is due. All right, Tuesday night, assignment 5 is due. So please don't wait until, Tuesday during the day. Like some people may not come up. This is the problem with making the assignment due the same day that you have a class. Some of you won't show up because you're doing assignment 5, last minute, right? Please, that would be very catastrophic for you for the exam because I'm going to give you exam information, right, which is really cool. Could you take it and give it to a friend? Yes, you could. There's all kinds of ways it can be shared, but I recommend trying to get your assignment 5 done before Tuesday. That's my recommendation. Or handing it in like you're just finishing touches for Tuesday night, that kind of thing. As opposed to coming in and working on your assignment 5 in class and not listening to what I'm going to tell you, which is going to be critical about your exam, because by Tuesday I'll know all the details about your exam. I don't know them yet because I couldn't fix them until after today's class, knowing how much we have to cover. All right, so that's Tuesday. Any questions before we begin? All right, let's get to it. So we're starting off with lesson 12B2 again. That's from last week, right? I'm going to continue to extend the calculator method, right? Or the calculator projects. So here we go. Here's our calculator projects. And so far, all we can do, right, with the calculator, is basically just press the calculator buttons, and we're good, right? We got this little calculator, my house calculator, woo! And we can do like 1, .3, and then we can put whatever number we want there. We've fixed it so that we can't press the decimal too many times. The C clears it, and if we press dot, it gives me the dot, and the 0, that's cool. Right, we can do this kind of stuff. The backspace doesn't do anything right now. That's up to you. I don't care about the plus minus. You don't have to finish that for tomorrow. That's really simple anyway. It's just reversing the sign, whatever is then there, convert it and reverse it and put it back, right? That's really what you're doing there. But the backspace is some interesting stuff because if I do one of these, 98, and if I backspace, I want to get rid of the last character. Remember, we're using a reference application. We already have. We have this calculator application we've been using, the Windows calculator, right? And the Windows calculator is really neat because it also has history. right? And this is what I was doing earlier today in the first class, right? So I've got this history. So an example of what I want to build today is something like this. 1 plus 1. Notice that this is the operations that I have here. And then I press equals, and then I have my history. 1 plus 1 equals to 2, right? But I can also chain my operations like this. 1 plus 3 minus 2, right, equals. And I have this longer complicated thing where I can do multiple calculations in one. All right. So this is what I want to aim for today, if I can do multiple calculations, right? And so I'm going to program my methods to accommodate these things. All right. It's easy for me to do 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, and 2 times 3 is equal to 6, and so on. But what about if I chain operations? Because that we're trying to emulate what the calculator will do. All right. And functionality, UI, like I told you before, is 10 minutes. We built it in, or half an hour, let's say, because I explained it, right? But then the functionality is going to take the rest of the time. We've been spending time on functionality this whole time, this whole week, right? And you can see that that's the major part of it. All right, let's try and fix this problem. So what do we do? Well, remember, when we're down inside my calculator button itself, we have the calculator buttons. We're not going to change this, right? Because this is just the calculator buttons themselves, right? But what about this piece? All we've done now is the clearer methodology, right? Well, what we want to do is we want to add in other functionalities in here, right? Like, for example, I want to have plus or minus or multiply or divide. Okay. Let me think about this really clearly before I go into that rabbit hole. I went into the rabbit hole this morning, right? I don't want to go into this rabbit hole again because it took me all class 2 hours, to fix this problem. And I wrote myself into a bit of a black hole, which happens sometimes when you write on the fly. Code on the fly is much more difficult than actually planning your code and kind of talking about it. It's good learnings for you guys because you see my debugging, my thinking. How do I debug? But on the downside, you see me debug, and you're watching me debug my code all the time, which is actually a negative for me. All right, so what do I want to do here? Well, I got to think this through a little bit, right? I want to have my clear, and whenever I press an operator, right, I have two things. I have the operation looks like this, just like we saw in the calculator, right? There is, let me just clear this, but look, take a look at this. There's a digit. Here, I'll put it up here so you guys can see. There's a digit, there's some kind of operator, and there's another digit. These digits are called operands, right, for math. We've got two operands and an operator. And when I press the equal sign, which is also an operator, right, the equals operator, then it calculates what the last operator was. Whatever that last operator, it uses the last operator to do the operation on these two operands. That's the method we have to build. Okay? Okay, now, could you do it differently? Yes. Like I said, I can convert this whole thing into a string. I can make as many operations as I want, convert it into a string. That's the easy way to do it. I'm telling you the easy way. I'm not going to show you the easy way, though. Whole thing into a string, convert it by splicing it. So I can splice the string into different parts. So anything before operand, the operator, make that into the first operand, do the operation based on the second operand, and then I figure it out. That's the easy way to do it. We're not going to do that here. We're going to do the hard way. The hard way is storing different things and kind of manipulating data a little bit. Do you understand what I mean by that? So take a string, cut it up, and then from there you can calculate what everything's going to be based on what the string is, whatever I have in the string. Okay, but we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it the long way. All right, so the long way, what do I mean by that? So that means, just from what I said, I need to remember my operator. I need to remember the current or last operator, however you want to call that. I need to remember that. I need to remember that, and it doesn't matter how many times I click on my operator button, I need to remember the last operator, okay? So what I want to do up here, and by the way, that's a whole other issue, what I'm talking about here. So I'm complicating it, but I want to kind of talk about this. I'm going to say my private, right? My operator is going to be a string, and it's going to be, I'll call it the current operator. You can also current the last operator, right? Because the current operator, and I called the current operator before, but current or last doesn't matter. It's the one you want. So current operator. That's a string. And I want to create a property for this. So I want to go and public. We'll do it the proper way. No. Make it a string. I'll pull this up for you guys so you can see it. And my property will be called current operator, right? And again, please don't leave it like this because it's not connected to anything this way. You have to connect it yourself. It actually is a self, it's a container that holds data on its own. That's not what I want here, right? I want to do this. You guys have seen this many times now. Will it be on the exam? Yes. There will be met properties in the exam, right? You'll have to know how to do them properly. That's part of the mark, right? You have to know how to do this. And then this dot underscore current operator is equal to value. I can set the current operator to whatever it is. Okay, I need to be able to hold this in memory. Okay, the other thing is I can store each operand in memory as its own value. Okay, now what do I want to do? I want to be able to convert. Remember, everything that's inside the result text box is a what kind of thing is it? It's a string, right? Everything. Remember I told you everything that's ever being displayed in a user interface, whether it's on the web, Android, iOS, Windows, whatever it's going to be, they're all strings. That's how it's displayed, right? So I got to take whatever's in that result text box and convert it to a double. I'm thinking a double will probably be the safest thing to do. All right, so if I'm converting it to a double, right, I need to hold them somehow. I have to hold the information somehow. And here's a couple of ways we can do it, right? So let's think about this. I can have the operator, operand 1, and I can have operand 2. And when I press the plus sign, right, I can take those operands and then smash them together to get a result. So I can have three more variables here, operand 1, operand 2, and a result. And they're all Booleans. Oh, sorry, they're all doubles. Okay? That's one option. But what if I start getting into this thing where I want to test to see if I have more than one operator? What if I want to do multiple operations? This is where I get a problem. How can I test to see if operator 1 has already been set? Because operand 1 and operand 2 can be zeros. So that means I have to have two more variables, so that do the doubles, and a couple of Booleans that say, yeah, they've been set. That means there's four variables right there. The Booleans that tell me that those operands have been set, right? Because if the first one's been set, and then I press plus, I set up another one. But if I press equals, I take those two and I calculate, right? But what if I do an operation that has multiple parts, right? So I have two operands. I did one plus, here's the operator, plus 2 as an example, and then I do another plus. I press the plus button, right? These two combined become the first operand, and now I have the other operand free, right? See what I'm saying? It becomes more complex. So my thinking is we should use something called, and I know you're going to kill me here. Again, I'm complicating it for a reason, because I want to kind of blend in the stuff we've learned before. I want to create an operand list. Okay, the operand list is only going to ever be maximum of 2 operands large, right? So 2 elements maximum. It can be 0, it can be empty, it can have 1, or it can have 2, right? Because when it has more than 2, if it ever goes to 3, it doesn't make any sense, right? It'll always be back to 2 or 1, okay? So that's what I want to do here. So this is the next piece. So in my private up here, I want to do another, and it's going to be of type of list. That's going to be a double list, a list of doubles. Okay. If I can actually spell private properly, private. So a private list of doubles that I'm going to call the operand lists. Okay. Now notice that I'm not instantiating it here, because every time I press the C button, the clear button, I want to kill the list. Right? In fact, I want to set up a new list every time I press the C button. Okay, so this is the private instance variable, and now I need a private property, a public property to do this for me. Now, normally, when we do a public property, right? Now, this would be what would be this thing here? What do I need to return? A list of double, right? That's what this is going to be, right? My property name would be called, right? operand list, right? That's my list name, right? Now, normally we don't need the getter and the setter, right? We don't need the getter and the setter. All we need is the getter because the getter gives us a reference. But now we're going to be setting it every time we clear. We're going to be setting the new list member of the new list. We're going to instantiate the new object of that list every time. So we need both in this case. Right, so an example would be if I do here, I'm going to say that I'm going to return, right? If I want to get, I'm going to return this dot underscore operand list, right? That's what I'm doing with the get. Now the set is special because it's going to actually instantiate here for the first time when I set, if I don't have one already, right? So it's going to do something like this. So I'll say this dot underscore operand list is equal to value. Whatever the value, the reference to the new list that I'm creating is. Guess what it's doing? So that's different. All right, well, where is that going to happen? It's going to happen way down here. When I clear, on my clear, I'm not only going to do result text box.text equals 0, but I'm also going to instantiate a new object of type list double, right? So I'm going to say list double, right? We're going to, you know, as an example, this is what it's going to be, right? I want to set up a new object of type list double, and of course we already have the name of that, which is this dot operand list is equal to a new list double. That's what we're doing, right? So this value is a reference to an anonymous list of type double, and we're going to take a pointer. That's what we're returning back into here into the operand list. And so every single time we clear, we get a new list. What happens to the old list? We don't care. It gets destroyed, right? C# does garbage collection on the back end, and whatever's outside, because that list is going to be lost, we don't care about it, right? So this, every time we press the clear button, it clears the list too. That's what it does. Is this the only way we can do it? No. We could use just the clear method, right? But I'd rather do it this way to show you that it can be done in different ways. Okay, so that's the first thing. So this will clear the list, right? So whenever you press the clear button, it clears the list, right? But this clear method also gets hit when my calculator form loads. My calculator form loads, it clears the list, it clears some other things, and we're good to go, right? How about this, right? Look, we just set up this current operator. What's the current operator default? There should not be one. And so just in case, what I'm going to do, we didn't have a chance to use this earlier, but inside my clear, I'm also going to set up the current operator. This current operator, right? We're going to set it to C. Now, why C? Because C is the clear, right? That's the current operator. So if I press clear, that's the last operation I did, right? And I can test for that. I can say, well, if it was C, that means we cleared it. So I mean, you know, that'll, just in case we want to have a problem, we can go back and refer to this as the last operation we did. Remember that I'm using the clear method to set up my variables, my class variables for the first time when I load my form. Okay, that's what it's doing. Okay, cool. So we've established a list, right? We got to this much faster than we did in the first class, that's for sure, right? Here's my operator buttons, right? So we know what the operator button is. We're going in here, and now let's think about it in the reverse way that I thought about it. So I have these two operands, right? Let's suppose I have operand 1, which is a 1, operand 2, which is a 1, and we say the operator is a plus, right? So what we want to do is take the operand 1 and operand 2 and add them together, do the calculation, right? Well, what if it's a minus? Operand 1 and operand 2 minus. What if it's times? Operator 1, operator 2 times. It's the same thing over and over again. For me to create different methods for each one of those things makes no sense. It's almost like I need one method to do the calculations for me. And I'm not going to do it in here in my operator button click, right? I want to do it separately. Okay? So let's start scaffolding out so you can see what I'm talking about. So let's suppose that we did the cases here. So if I said case, we'll say the plus. We'll do the plus case first, right? And let's say, as an example, we also have a case, right, where we have an equal sign, okay? So those are the two cases we have right now. And we can also have other ones, right? But let's suppose those are the two cases. If you want to handle the plus first, we want to, let's say, go to this calculate method that calculates the two things and does the plus. So we don't have this method, but we're going to say something like this. This dot underscore, right? We'll call it calculate, right? Calculate. That's the first thing. But calculate, before we get there, we need to know what's in the result text box dot text, because when we calculate on the calculator, right? So let's suppose I press 1, that's the operand. Now I'm pressing the plus button, right? Because look, I'm waiting for the operator, plus. So now something's going to happen to this operand. It has to be stored inside my list somewhere, okay? So there's two things I can do. I can store it now. But what if I already have an operand already in there and I'm doing a chained operation, right? I need to be able to test for this. I don't want to do it here. I want to test for it in my calculate method, which means I got to take whatever the operand is, the result text box dot text, convert it to the from a string to a double, and then send it into my calculate method. Okay, I did it differently earlier, but what I think I'm going to do is, instead of sending in the operand in here converted, I'm going to convert inside the calculate method. I'm going to call the convert function from the calculate method, because I don't want to convert every time. I don't want to convert when it's a C. I don't want to convert when it's an equals, right? I only want to convert when it's a plus, minus, whatever, something else, okay? So I want to send in the operand, and that means the result text box dot text is going to be sent in there, whatever the result text box dot text is. So that means that this is going to receive, the calculate method is going to receive this result text box dot text. Okay, hold on. But that means if I send the result text box dot text in there, what about the equal sign? The equal sign has to know what the previous calculation was, right, in order for it to do its work, okay? So not only do I need to know this, I need to save the result text box dot text plus, right, the operator, which is my operator button dot text. Those are the two things I need to send in there into the calculate method. Now we can revise this. There's different ways of coding this, but this is my solution. You can certainly come up with your own, right? Maybe it'll be even better than mine. But notice that the calculate method itself is going to take two things. Now I'm not calling it plus or add, because it's going to be the exact same thing over and over again, just different kinds of operations. But how do I care? How do I know what operation to do? Well, it's based on my operator button. Well, that means I don't want to do a switch case here, because I don't even care what this is, right? If it's a C, or if it's an equal sign, or if it's a backspace, let me do the backspace for you. I'll populate it for you guys, right? So here's the backspace, right? Well, the backspace in my design, I have to test for that too, which is better than against my better judgment, this weird symbol here, right? So the way to test for this is, I'm gonna go for my properties here to show you. I can actually go in there and into this thing and grab this thing here, this symbol, because it can test for this too. This is just a text, right? And I want to test for that too. So I can say, well, if it's this, or what if it's a backspace? It could be a backspace. So here's my backspace, right? I can test for that, right? Funny character, but it's still a character. It's a character sequence. That's what I'm testing for. So this is cool, but these ones, if it's not one of these ones, if it's not a C, if it's not an equal, if it's not a backspace, then anything else has to be an operator, right? Actually, the other one is the plus minus. I'll put that in there too, just to satisfy our requirements, right? Because that could be the case too. So here's our plus minus. Here's our plus minus. Let's make that as well. So I'm helping you guys out for your thing. For the people in this morning's class, I apologize. They ran through it a little bit differently than this. Okay, good, right? So those are the other cases. So these are all the cases. And then there's a bunch of plus, minus, multiply, divide, right? Well, we don't care what it is, right? Whatever it is, it's still going to go to my calculate method, right? Whatever it is. So this will not be the case here. Bear with me. This will be the default case here. And we're going to change this from plus to default. So the default case would mean that, well, if it's not one of these fancy different buttons, right? They do different things, right? They do different things. But my if it's an operator, if it's something else other than these four, right? That's hit by the operator buttons. Let me just check, make sure. It could what it could be. It could be a C. It could be a backspace, right? It could be this plus minus, or it could be one of these, right? Then do something else. And that do something else, my friends, is this calculate method that we don't have yet, right? I'm just scaffolding it in, right? Because I want to do this. So I'm going to kind of go over here, hover over, and if I go to the light bulb, it can actually scaffold it in for me, right? Here it is, the calculate method. So this is the calculate method. That, or I'll say this method calculates the result. How about this? This method calculates the results of all the operands in the operator list, operand list. Okay. I have two things that I get. It gets string and another string. Notice that there's two strings here, right? The first string, right, is the operand itself. And the second string, right? So there's the operand. I did this wrong. Hold on a second. The operand, I'll be okay. And the second string is the operator. Right? But notice that the operator doesn't like that because operator is a keyword. So operator string. This is the operand string, just to make it so it's copacetic. Operand string, operator string. Those are these two things are. All right. Now we can get rid of this. And now we want to do calculations. But my operand string right now, because we're putting it in there, guess what? My operand string is a string, and we need to convert it to double, right? So I have a method to do that. I want to make a method to do that. Why? Because later on, I may want to not convert it to double. Maybe I want to convert it to an integer if there's no dot. And I want to be able to detect that. I can't do it right now, but I'm going to prep for that by making another method to do my my conversion for me. So I want to say something like this. My operator string, right? So my operand, double operand, is equal to this dot underscore, sorry. Yeah, I was right. This dot underscore, and we'll call it convert operand, whatever the operand is, right? And we'll pass in the operand string. Okay, so it's going to take this input, whatever it is. It could be a 1, 2, 1.3, whatever it's going to be. Take it and convert it, and then assign it to double for now. Okay. Could I do it here, right here? Yes, I could. But I told you I don't want to do that. I only want this thing to do one thing. I wanted my convert operand to do its own method altogether, right? So let's make it scaffold out. Okay. Now there's a lot of stuff I'm doing here. I'm gonna set this up so you can see it in a second. This method converts the string from the result text box to a number. We don't know what the number is going to be yet, but it's going to do that. So return the double, and this one right here is going to do the following. It's going to take the operand, right, the operand string, and it's going to return, right, convert dot to double. We're going to use the convert dot to double. And we're going to take the operand string itself for now, right, and send it off to this. But however, remember, we can have some weird things happening here. Here's one of the options. What if the user puts in 1 dot? Is that a number? Maybe, maybe not. 1 dot may be interpreted as 1.0. It might present an error for the conversion when I try to convert the string to a double, right? So I want to wrap this stuff here in a try catch. I want to do one of these. I want to do a try catch, right? And I'm going to take this stuff. This is the first return. And I'm going to put it in here. Okay. So it's returning a double. That's cool. Otherwise, okay, does that make sense? Try catch. I'm doing a try catch because I want to do error handling here, just in case the operator string can't convert to a double, right? I want to throw an exception, and I want to do one of these. I want to say something like this. I want to do, first of all, let me call this the exception. Okay? And I want to do something like this. I want to say, let's debug on the if it's some kind of weird thing, I want to say debug dot write line. And in my debug dot write line, I'm going to say an error occurred. We don't know what that error is. Oopsies. For now. And then what I want to do is in another line, debug dot write line. Another line, what I want to do is I want to pump up the exception, whatever it is, and then the message that's associated with the exception. You guys learned this, right? The message, the exception message. Did you not? You guys should know how to do this, because the exception message is a string, the exact message that's being given by the system if we have a problem, whatever it is. By the way, I could just not do this and just make it so that it's the message, but it's fine. Now this gives me an error because it says not all code paths return a value, because hey, I'll return a value if it's not a problem, but what happens when I get here? I won't return a value anymore, right? So let's just, if something happens, let's just return 0, right? And return 0 means that it came in and we converted it to 0. So it's not going to kill us, but we're still going to have an error. And chances are, guys, it's never going to get here if we do things right. This only happens is if we have some kind of weird error here. So convert operand tries to convert everything to a double. That's what it's trying to do right now. By the way, I could take a look at my string, parsing it, seeing if there's a dot in there. And if it's not a dot, if dot doesn't exist, then I could convert it to an integer, right? Or something else. But for now, we're just going to do a double, and I'm preparing just in case in the future I want to do this. Okay, this is a lot of work we've done already. We've done a couple of things here, right? So we've added in a calculate method. It's not complete yet, but we've created it. So let's just do that. So I'm going to say something like this, 1.0. Wow, we're already at 1.0. Added a calculate, or added calculate and the underscore calculate and convert, what do we call it? Just want to make sure I got it right. So we're good to get the calculate and the convert operand and convert operand methods. That's what we did here. So we're kind of doing a bit of a step here. Copy, so you can have what I just did, right? And I'm going to go to Team Explorer, and I'm going to changes, go in there, add, right? And I'm going to go home. I'm going to go to sync and push. There we go. Okay, so that's all we've done so far. You have that now, whatever change I made. So we're good. We're checking for this. We haven't coded the equal sign yet, but we're going to code the calculate button, all right? So far, all the calculate method does is it converts. Okay, cool. So now we've converted. Great. What happens if we want to, the method, our calculate method, all it does right now is whenever we do the add, it takes the first operand and then we add it into the list, right? So without thinking about anything, we want to do something like this. We want to say the operand list, right, dot add, and we're going to pass in the operand. That's without thinking. Right, so we're going to pass that into the list. Now we have that first operand, yeah? The operand's in the list. Okay, cool. We also want to capture whatever the operand we're doing, operation. The operator, we want to capture the operator as the last operator, okay? But didn't we already do that? No, we haven't, right? We're going to do that here. So inside of my operator, I want to capture this as the other thing I want to do. So I want to say, well, the this dot current operator, right, is equal to the operator string. This may have to change later on. I'll take the operator, sending it off to the current operator. Yay, fantastic. Okay, so I saved the operator and I've added it in. But what if, remember, I'm trying to cover this thing here, where what if I have my calculator, here's my calculator, and in my funky calculator, I do one of these, 1 plus 2, and then I press plus. It kind of calculates for me, right? When I have more than 1 and I hit my plus button again, it should do the calculation for me, yeah? So I got to test for that. I got to say, well, if, okay, fine, you've got my plus, right? But what was the last operator? My last operator, right? Well, we don't care. There is no, the current operator is a plus, but I've got 2 operands somehow. Like I've gone here, I've been here before, guys. I've added 1, I'm coming back again, and I'm adding another one somehow, right? Is that really what happens? Let's see what's going on here. Let's mimic this again. So again, here's 1 plus, oh, it's 1 plus, right? 1. Do I have a second operand now? I do, but I haven't done anything with it until I press equals. So equals actually is the thing that does the calculation for me, the equals. It actually takes the last operator and does what I want it to do, right? So this adds it, and equals does the calculation. Let's get the equals going, all right? So we're going to call this display result. I kind of called it something else in my other class, in my other section. So we're going to call this it. We're going to say this dot underscore, and we're going to call this display result, or well, actually I call it show result. Call show result. This will be the same. Okay. And what it's going to do is it's also going to need the current operand, right? So here's my my current operand. I need the current one that I have right now, which is the result text box.text. Okay, here's my result text box.text. Okay, that means that I got to call the convert method again, right? Because I got to convert it in the show result. Okay, so show result takes the operand, thinks that there's only one more, and whatever the last operation was, it calculates, right? All right, hear me out why I'm doing this, so we can puzzle this out together, right? I'm going to go here, and then generate this new object, right? So which is show result. Hear my thinking for a second. So here is this method shows the result of the last operation on the result text box in the results result text box. Result text box, sure. Okay, so I get a string. This is an operand, right? And then what I'm going to do, I got to make, actually we'll call the operand string. Then, of course, I got to set up the same function. So I'll say double operand is equal to this dot underscore convert operand, and we'll pass in the operand string to convert it to a dummy, right? Converts it. And now I want you to see the similarities, right? Now we're going to do what? I got to add it in, right? So I'm going to say operand list. Take a look at the same thing, what I got here. Dot add, and then the operand. Okay, hold on. But I never did the calculate, right? So I added that in, and then I want to actually physically do the calculate, and I want to do it based on the last operator, whatever the last operator was. That's why I saved the operator, right? Does that make sense? All right. So if you think about it, right, I've got my operand string, and I want to call this calculate method, this dot underscore calculate, right? And I'm going to pass in, hold on, whoa. I'm converting, and then I'm calculating, right? Well, I kind of got to do this kind of thing, right? But then I'm going to calculate, I'm going to convert again. Look, I'm converting once, I'm converting again. Well, maybe all I want to do is convert once if there's only one operand, right? Like, for example, if it's the first one I'm putting into my list, then I want to convert. Otherwise, I already have one, and I'm getting one from my equals, right? But we're going to run into issues. See where the logic starts coming? You go, which one do I do first, right? Or here's the other question. Do I convert here? Every time I have an operand, before I even come into this switch case, do I convert it directly into a double, right? And then it's already converted, and then I don't have to do this conversion over here. Because then I don't have to do these two conversions. I don't have to do it twice. I just do it once. So that might be the better way to do it. However, the operand to be converted, if I have an operand to be converted, is only going to need to be happening if it's not going to be this, it's not going to be, it'll happen here. It won't happen here because we don't care about converting it, right? Because the backspace will just backspace it. We don't care about converting it. And this won't matter either because we're going to modify it and then convert it back. We're going to do this back and forth a couple times, right? So that's going to be a real issue, right? If we do it up here. Let's suggest we do it anyway. Let's see what happens. So if I do this up here, so if I go back down here, and I'm doing this with you guys so you understand that there's issues, right? So I'm going to take this. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to take the operator string. There is no operator string, right? This is actually the result text box.text. Right? .text. This is what's happening. I'm taking it and converting it. So I'm not going to do this and say convert to number, right? Convert the operand into a number, right? Only when I press the operator button is it going to happen, right? And then my result text box.text doesn't have to be done here. I can just pass in the operand, right? And the same thing goes for this one, which means if that's the case, I don't have to do the conversion in here, right? I'm just pulling this out. So you can see I can change this to a double because I need that. And this can be the operand, right? Make sense? And over here, this can be the same thing. This can be a double, and this will be the operand. I don't have to do this conversion anymore because I already do it beforehand. Okay, so we're good here. Good operand. We're going to send it to calculate. And now, the operand needs another operand because if I send it to calculate, I need the operator string. So I need to send in the operand and some kind of operator string, which is going to be this dot underscore current current operator. Because the current operator would be the previous operator, the one we pressed before the equal sign, right? This is the equal sign, right? This is when we press show result, we've actually pressed the equal sign, and we want to show the result. So we take the current operator, whatever the operand is, the number 1, we said 1, and then we said plus, and then we plus 1, and then press equals. So we take the last one, add it to the other one, and then we do the operation, whatever it is, we calculate based on the current operand. Well, we've already added it in here. Do we have to do this again? Well, let's not do this because we're going to do it over here. We're going to add the operand in. We're just passing it through. That's all we're doing, right? So let's not do this. We're simplifying, right? We're calculating. So far, there's no reason to have a show result, by the way. If you notice, all we're doing is passing things through, right? And when we pass things through, to here, it adds the other operand, and then the current operator is the operator string, whatever the thing we do. And now we have to check to see somehow if there's more than one operand in the operator list. And if it is, do the calculation. Okay? So we pass it in. And before we do this current operator string stuff, we say something like this. If operand list, it's a little different than what I did earlier, dot count is greater than 1, right? Only 1. if we only do this the first time. If it's greater than 1, that means this is second time around. Second time we're coming through this thing, right? If it's greater than 1, then I want to do the calculation. Then let's do a switch case where the first result, and what are we switching? We're switching the operator string, right? Whatever the operator string is, here's the operator string. Where if the first case, oh, I hate when that happens. When the first case is a plus, then do something. And where in case it's a minus, we'll do the minus in there too, just to have it. I'm not going to do the multiply and divide. That's yours to do, right? If it's a plus, do this. If it's a minus, do something else. If it's a plus, what do I want to do? Well, what I want to do is I want to store the result somewhere. Okay, I want to store the result somewhere. Okay, that's what I want to do. I want to store the result somewhere. And now we have something for this to do. This is going to take the result. We don't have the result up here. Notice there is no result that we have here. We have is decimal clicked, the current operator, the operand list, and we need some kind of result that we're going to show on the result text box, right? So we're going to say private, right? It's going to be a double, and it's going to be underscore results, right? That's what it's going to be. And we also need, this is just the private instance variable, we also need a public property for this, so we can test for it later, right? Which is a double. We're going to call this result, capital R, right? And we need both the getter and the setter, which you guys have done many times by now. Return this dot underscore results. Again, we use this just in case we want to do troubleshooting, which we probably will. And this dot underscore results is equal to value. Cool. So we've got a getter and setter for the results, right? That's what we've done here. And down in here, by the way, could have done more commits. I could have many, many more already. But down in here where I have this, I want to set the result, the final result, equal to whatever I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say something like this. This dot result, right, is equal to the list, the first element in the list, right? And if it's a plus, plus this dot operand list, the second element in the list, right? And if it's a minus, I want to put a negative sign in there, right? Now the result will be updated. Okay. I'm going to save the current operator, which is still the plus. That was the last result I did, right? We don't care about the equal sign. We're storing the last operator as the plus, all right? And we're going to have to change this later on as we come back, but let's keep going. Now that we've done that, we're going to come back here. So we've done this. We've stored everything in the result, and we want to take that result and print it out, right? I know you guys are, boggling. It's mind-boggling, eh? For a calculator, are you happy? This is what we do, right? This is, you think it's easy, but it's not. So now what we're going to do is we're going to show the result. Oops. We're going to show the results. I'll go over it again. I'm going to go through it again so you see it, okay? So this is the calculate. Once we calculate, I want to take whatever's stored in that result property, and I want to show it on the text box, result text box, right? I want to put it back out to the result text box. So how do I do that? I'm going to go. It's very, very simple. I'm going to say something like this. I'm going to say result text box text is equal to the result, whatever we got, toString, because we have to convert it back to string. So that is the equals operation. Okay, let's add this. We just added this method in there. This method shows the result to the last operation. We did this show result method. That's what we did. And that's the last method we added in there, right? So 1.1 right? We added the show results method. That's what we did. So we're going to take this and I'm going to share it with you on GitHub so you can see everything, all the changes. That's why we have GitHub. I didn't use it very effectively today, but that's okay. Learn, live and learn. Even for me. Doesn't matter. What did we do wrong? No, that's not what I want. I wanted to this. This, and push. There we go. Okay, so now you should have everything up on GitHub. Please check your GitHub to compare with mine. I'm at version 1.1 with my files. As you can see now, we have the results, right? Let me go back and show you how this works again. So we come into the operator. If it's a C, we've cleared it, right? If it's not a C, and if it's not one of these other ones, if it's an equal sign, we show the result. Hold on. What if we never press the plus button? Now what do we do? Right? What if the result is a C, right? Or the class operator, the current operator is a C, because remember we cleared, and every time we clear, the result, the last operator is a C. And what if I press the equal sign? I'm allowed to do that. I can press the equal sign. Look, if I go here on my calculator, and if I go equals, then it's going to go equals. The equals is going to pop out again, right? So if the current operator, right, is a C, we don't want to even do any of that calculation. We just want to spit it out. We just want to spit out whatever's inside the result text box back out to the result text box, right? I don't want to do anything. I just want to leave it alone, right? Press equals, whatever's there is what it is, right? How about if I do this? If I press 1 and press equals, right? That's also an operation. I can press equals and I just press 1. So if there's no other operand, I want to test for that. If this is the only operand, or if I haven't done anything, if my last thing was a clear, one of those two operations, I don't want to do the calculation because then it's going to mess me up, right? So again, however, if it is everything's okay, and if I do my first one, then press the plus is going to add the operand, whatever the operand is to the list. It's going to take that last number, put it to the list, right? And then if my operand list count, if my list is greater than 1, if there's 2 in there, it's going to do the calculation, right? If there's only 1 in there, it's going to save whatever the calculation is I've just done to the current operator, so I can keep track of which is the last operator I'm using. Okay? Cool. However, if I've gone through here and I'm showing result, if I press the equals button, I want to take the last operand, right? I want to pass it into my calculate button. It's going to add it into the calculate. It's going to make sure that my count is greater than 1. It is going to go through here. And then it's actually going to do the calculation, whether it's a plus or a minus, right? It's going to store this stuff inside the result property that I defined, right? And then it's going to come back to the show result and spit it out to the result text box. That's what it's going to do. Let's try this out. All right. Now, in the first case, I never even got close to this part by the halfway point. Just letting you know. All right. So how does this work? So I've already cleared. Let's look at my little event queue here. Okay. I want to do this. 8 plus 8. Oh, man. That's not right. Equals 96. What the heck? How did I get 96? Right? That is a weird-ass calculation error, right? That's got to say it like that, right? Let's try some other ones. It's clear, all right? 2 plus 2 equals. Oh, man. What the heck? What? Well, I know what the problem is. The problem is it's actually doing what I'm asking it to do. So I have an issue. I've never done this before, right? Until now. I'm just testing now for the first time. So the problem is that I need to clear. Whenever I press 8 and then I press plus, I need to clear this, right, and make it equal, which means I need another case when I add stuff into my list. So what do I mean by that? To fix this problem, right? It's up here. This little algorithm we were working on yesterday with you, remember we were working on it together and we came up with this little thing? It's almost perfect. Remember I said it's almost there. What about here? So it's not a 0, but it's something else. We already have an operand into place, right? We have an operand, right? And what I want to do here is I want to test. So I want to replace it if my operator count, if my operand list is greater than 0. If it's greater than 0, right, then that operand is going to be my new one, right? So if I said 1 plus, and then it says step white again, it's greater than 0. My operand list is greater than 0. It's not empty, right? That's another case. And that's what I want to put in here. I want to say something like this, right? If this is under, by the way, this is inside my calculator button click event, all right? If my operand list count is greater than 0, if that's another case, right? Then what do I want to do? I want to do this. I only want to make it equal. I don't want to add on to the thing. Otherwise, do this. Now again, there's some savings to be had. We got to check this out. There might be another way of making this better, but I'm not going to do that today. You know what I'm saying? So I'm checking to see how big my operand list is. My operand list means, hey, I've pressed an operator somewhere. I've pressed a plus. I've pressed a minus. I pressed the multiply. I pressed a divide. And if that's true, don't add on, keep adding to my result text box. I've already stopped. I've already got my number, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm taking that 8 and I'm adding another 8, making it 88, and then adding 8 onto it again. So it's becoming 96. I don't want that, right? Okay, let's try it again. So I'm going to try it out, and then I'll say I refactor my calculator button. Oh, I can't. Someone's trying to FaceTime me, but I can't do it. I can't FaceTime at this point. I'm teaching, you crazy people. All right, let's try it. So 8 plus 8. That's good. Equals, yay, 16. I got a 16. All right, cool. How about let's try another one. 1 plus 2 equals, good. Okay, now let's try the minus, because I already programmed the minus in 2. 9 minus 6 equals, right? Okay, cool. Now, the weird stuff. 1 plus 2 plus 2 equals no, right? So that's where we have to fix it. Now what do we do when we have another operator? How do we fix that part, right? We've got the basic functionality down here, but it doesn't keep doing our chained operations, right? We can't do our chained operations, right? And what if, I'm going to try this out. What if I do this? If I go 1 dot plus 3 equals, that kind of worked, right? So 1 dot kind of worked. It didn't error out, right? Which is awesome, right? Because it could have. We don't know what could have happened, right? We didn't get an error. It worked for us. So guys and girls, so far, we're pretty good. And we're way ahead of where it was earlier today. Way ahead, right? Because I found out all my mistakes, and then we're good to go, right? Questions before I stop this recording? We're going to take a short break, 5 minutes, come back. And when we come back, we'll try and finish off this chained operation stack, if we can do it. I just said it, chained operation stack, right? And until so we can find out what the next operation can be and what the next one is going to be, how to figure this out. And what's the problem? What did it really do when I pressed the plus again, right? Did it actually do what it's supposed to do? Well, it kind of did, right? But it didn't display my operation on the result. And because it didn't display my operation inside my result text box, it didn't continue. We're going to fix that after we come back from the break. Let's take 5.